It's that time of year again. There's a ritual in Washington, D.C. of creating a big brouhaha around the discussions around federal spending, how big the government is, how big the national debt is, and the interest payments on the national debt, only to do nothing about it. We've seen it every year. It's almost comical if it weren't about such a serious subject. Now, make no mistake, I come down on the small government side of this question, but the political reality is pretty clear that neither major political party really wants to take aim at the drivers of that federal spending, at the drivers of that national debt crisis. 36 trillion today, on track to be 60 trillion in 10 years, in 2035. And that's assuming no growth in the rate of federal spending. So I think we've got to find a different way of actually looking at real solutions to this problem. Outside of the usual tug of war, even fake tug of war about whether to reduce spending or not. Let's think about this a little differently. Think about a kid born, let's just say in 2026, next year, when we celebrate our 250th anniversary of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. A kid born in the United States of America in 2026 will grow up into a country where he will never be able to collect Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid because of the fiscal calamity that we're in. It's not a political debate, just a mathematical reality, which means we ought to ask the question as leaders, not just at the federal level, but even at the state level. We got to ask the question of how do we ensure that generation of Americans is so financially successful, so wealthy, that they will never need to depend on the federal entitlement state. You see, I think that's our way out, not getting into a fraught discussion about how to cut entitlement payments to people who are already expecting to receive them, people who have paid into the system versus not. In some ways, it's a wrong debate. The question is just starting from a clean slate. Every person today is unaffected by what I'm going to talk about. But starting next year, the kid who's born next year, how do we ensure that that generation is going to be a generation of millionaires in the United States of America? So wealthy and so successful that they won't even need access to that federal entitlement state of yesterday. That's where we need to go. And the way to get there, and I'm going to be talking a lot more about this year, but the way to get there is by leveraging what Albert Einstein called the most powerful force in the universe. That's compound interest. I'll just walk you through a basic math exercise. Suppose a kid, when he's born, has a $10,000 investment account. And suppose it's invested in assets that compound over the long run at a rate of 15% a year. Ambitious, but not impossible to achieve, far from it. Many people who are wealthy and successful have generally achieved far more than that. Let's say you're just investing in assets for a 15% annualized rate of return. What's the math on that? That $10,000 would be the equivalent of, it would be in actuality, it would be $160,000+ at the age of 20. It would be $660,000 at the age of 30. And it would be a staggering $2.6 million plus at the age of 40. That's a generation of multimillionaires at the age of 40, just starting with a $10,000 investment account that, frankly, the initial principal could flow straight back to where it came from some point along the way. How much would that cost just to kickstart and get started? Well, you think about the number of births in the country. It's about 3.7 million births per year, $10,000 a kid. That'd be $37 billion a year. It's a lot of money, no doubt, but tiny compared to the amount we spend on just Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That's $3 trillion just last year. $3 trillion versus $37 billion. If you could actually create a generation of multimillionaires where every kid born in this country were a millionaire, they would never need those federal entitlement state nanny programs on the back end. That's what we need to be talking about. And I think that's something that's going to unite Democrats and Republicans alike. It ought to be. Who doesn't want their kid to be able to be growing up to be a millionaire in the United States of America, participating in the success of economic growth, participating in capitalism, the best system known to the history of man to lift people up from poverty? That's the conversation we need to have, not just the usual talking points we memorized over the last 30 years of partisan politics. And if you stay tuned, we're going to be doing some really interesting things in Ohio, never been done at the state or federal level, that cultivates a generation of millionaires without apology. And there's nothing that unites a people other than success. Success is unifying. Excellence is unifying. We don't have to villainize it. We can actually celebrate it with pride if we know that every young man and woman in this country is actually participating in it. More on that to come.